guys, welcome. I am welcoming you to the Clean Eating Challenge overview. And no matter where you are around the globe, it's always good to sort of reset your diet after the holidays, lots of holidays, the New Year starts. Your New Year's resolutions start to fizzle. And then what happens is you kind of get discouraged, you ditch your resolutions, and you just go back to old habits. But I'm here today to motivate you into just resetting your diet through clean eating. It's pretty simple. Well, I think it's pretty simple because I'll introduce myself if you don't know who I am. I'm JoAnne Pavin. I've been in integrated wellness for the past 2 decades. So I've been helping people with their fitness, nutrition, and mindset. So I know that just by changing a few things in your diet, you can re-energize yourself and feel good and also just have more of a positive mental attitude. I'll just get right into why we want to eat cleaner and what clean eating really means. So cleaning up your diet means just getting rid of the processed and the ultra-processed food. There's been a lot of things in the news about ingredients and things that additives, preservatives, fake sugars, all those things that we've sort of been bombarded with over the last 30 years, and now we realize that they're not so good for our health. And I'm here to guide you away from them and back to what your grandmother might have eaten. You know, like I always tell people, would your grandma have eaten this? And then if the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't eat it either. So I want to just say that it's not as complicated as you might think. If you just think of live foods, like things that grow out of the ground, like your fruits and your vegetables and your whole grains, those are the foods that you want to tend to grab rather than dead food. I tell people if you want to feel alive and vibrant, then you want to grab live foods, things that are coming from the ground, things that are whole, rather than things that have gone through a refinery process or a manufacturing plant or in a package. And I want to share this because I have experience with the packaged food industry. Actually, I would say I successfully failed at the startup that I had 20 years ago. I successfully failed because I learned this. I had a vegan nutrition bar. I learned a lot about what goes into packaging of food, manufacturing it in a plant, and really the vitality of food. And what happened is, basically, manufacturers told me, Ms. Pavin, if you want something that healthy, you should probably make it in your kitchen. And so that was sort of the end of that because I didn't have a very big kitchen at the time in my townhome, and I certainly couldn't manufacture all of the bars, at least to the quality that I had expected. So I learned a lot about when something gets packaged, it loses its vitality. And really, if we want to feel vital, we want to eat things that have life force, and the life force comes from live foods. With that, you can look in your fridge. I'll open up my fridge in a bit and show you. I go through a weekly cleanse of my fridge. I started that like 4 years ago during COVID, and now I've created this habit where weekly I go through my fridge. I throw out anything that is left over or that is past the expiration date. And typically the things that I buy now are so live that they're not lasting more than a week or so unless they're in a container like, you know, cottage cheese, sour cream, fermented food. So I go through this weekly purge of the fridge. What I think is important too is understanding that it's a process that, you know, you start slowly and you realize like, oh, I didn't know that I was ingesting all of these ingredients. And in this challenge that I run, it's broken up week by week. So I help you understand ingredients, what you should stay away from. And I start the week with the 7-day no processed food. So you're actually looking at how much or how many packaged products are you taking in weekly, or what are you cooking with, what are the ingredients. So really I'm just tuning you into looking at labels, understanding labels. Some people don't realize like that aspartame is bad for them, and I shouldn't use the bad or good, but it's really been proven, you know, to do a lot of bad things in our body and our cells. So aspartame or sucralose or the fake sugars, and they don't understand that. They don't understand what it does to the body, so I educate you on what it actually does to your glandular system, and your glands are, running and are being stimulated by your foods. And I educate you on what you're doing to your glands and how over time, if you're taxing your glands in that way, you're going to have, this burnout internally, and you find illness, you don't feel good, you lose energy. So with that education of learning about the processed foods and going through the 7-day no processed food challenge, you start to realize, wow, okay, this is kind of easy because I'm educated now, I'm tuned in, and you will opt for an apple rather than, a bag of chips in the afternoon. Or I love my two cutie, this is my defense in my immune system builder for the winter. Every afternoon I grab 2 cuties, they're small. So I do the 2 cutie defense, which is like my vitamin C. Rather than taking the vitamin C in a supplement, I do it in the orange, and it's great. I don't know if it's placebo or if it really is, working that fast, but as soon as I start to feel like some kind of cold or flu coming on, I do that. And immediately I'm revived. And who doesn't get revived when they smell like a fresh peeled orange? It's like awesome. So we go through just this week getting to understand. There's a little bit of a journaling activity, and then I give you suggestions for what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you have a framework then to work from. And then secondly, I go into week 2 where I help you really understand digestion, because really Ayurvedically, I have a background in Ayurveda, which is the traditional Indian medicine. And that's over 5,000 to 6,000 years old. It's a system of balancing your body with nature, basically live foods, herbs, and a daily routine, body work, meditation. Yoga is a sister science of Ayurveda. So they go hand in hand. And what that says, or what the sages said in there, is that disease starts in 2 places. It starts in your gut, and it starts in your mind. So equally, what you're thinking affects how you're digesting, and what you're eating affects how you're thinking. They go hand in hand, and I like to go into the modern day explanation of it. It's called the gut-brain axis. And so that works back and forth. So your thoughts are affecting your digestion is affecting your thoughts. So you have to really be careful of what you're choosing to eat if you want to, have good mental attitude and ultimately want to perform and have productive days. You don't want to be clogging your brain with a lot of additives and preservatives. So I explained that digestion process, which is really, people ignore. They just think, it's a secondhand thing, right? You're eating, you're digesting. But now more than ever, people have a lot of digestion issues, or IBS, and ulcerative colitis. There's all of these irritations in the upper and lower GI, and it tends to come from an acidic environment, and that acidic environment in your body can be from chronic stress, what you're thinking and what you're feeling, or what you're actually putting in your mouth and what you're eating. And those two combined too can cause a lot of irritation. What you want to do is stimulate that digestive fire, and there's ways to do that. And the first thing that you can do to stimulate your digestion before a meal is just to sit down and breathe. How often do we really sit down and breathe before we pop stuff in our mouth? Now, I'm still guilty of that, although I'm really mindful that whenever I'm going to eat, or I teach my kids to eat, I want them to slow down, take a deep breath, breathe in through your nose, out through the back of your throat. And if you do that even right now, if you're listening, you'll realize, wow, like just a breath, an intentional breath will slow down your heart rate and allow yourself to be more grounded before you eat. And then what the breath does is also is preparing your system for taking in food. And if you're breathing, you might be breathing in the aromas of the food. That stimulates your salivary gland, and the saliva is the first step in digestion. So people often skip that, stimulating of the salivary glands, and they just gobble it right down, and then the acids are trying to do their work on the food, and sometimes the acids aren't always prepared for breaking down. So then you have this incomplete breakdown of your food going into your intestines, and then you have gas and all this bloat and I feel so sluggish. That's where clean eating comes in, is we are going to eat live foods, but we're going to eat with the digestive system ready to take them in, and then everything runs that much smoother. And then we go into intuitive eating, like really putting your hand on your heart and asking yourself, do I really want to eat this right now? Like, if you slow yourself down and you pause in between really a stimulus, like I'm starving, and popping stuff in your mouth, to, do I want to eat this? And then if you do want to eat it, analyzing what it is, and then, well, maybe I want to eat, but I don't want to eat this now because it's not live food, it's not going to give me vitality, it's not going to give me energy. So then you shift over to, what could I substitute it with? So it's just tapping into being mindful, and that's what's called intuitive eating. And really, like, what do I feel like? You might not feel like the healthy food right away. You might feel like, well, I want that, whatever that snack is, that's processed snack. But then if you really sit back and you analyze, like, how's that going to make me feel after? So after you put it in your system, how is it going to make me feel? And then if you can answer that, then typically you'll reverse back into, I do want something better. I do want something better than this packaged product. And then you'll start to shift how you shop. Because as you shop, you'll realize, well, is that live or is it dead? And it's pretty simple. Like, you look, live or dead. And how alive is it? Granted, there are things that are in a package, like I'll explain, like nuts and things like that. Those are, live, but they're in a package. Or there are minimally processed foods. So there are still live, vibrant foods that are in a package that I should clarify aren't processed food. Processed food is something that you would see goes through the machinery or a manufacturing plant, and then it's put into packaging. And it has a shelf life. If anything has a shelf life, then well, how long is that shelf life? And granted, there are fermented foods that I have in my fridge, like sour cream, milk, things that are in a package that have been pasteurized or homogenized for safety, that do have a shelf life, but that still are macronutrient dense foods that we want to consume. So we go into connecting ourselves to the food, to our emotions. How are we feeling? What's this, an informed choice, really. We're informing ourselves of that choice that we're making with the food. And then we get into, okay, well, let's prep and plan. So like the last session of this clean eating is really, how are we preparing, and how much time does it take? So in our fast-paced world, we often get really stressed out about making a meal every night, and I love the meal. I dedicated like 4.5 years to writing a quarterly on it because I think it's so important to plan your meal, sit down, enjoy your meal with your family. If it's not every day, at least once a week. So that's the premise about just really celebrating your food. And it takes a lot of time to do that. I have now got it down to where I know I'm in the kitchen for 3 hours. If I want to make a dinner, I'm in the kitchen prepping, and I'm preparing, then we're eating, and then I'm cleaning up. So those 3-hour blocks, I think, okay, well, I'm going to do that how often per week? And then on the days that I don't want to spend 3 hours prepping food and preparing food, I know what the backup is. I know I might have a quick fix for that, but it will include healthy live foods. For example, the breakfast for dinner, scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs is a lot quicker than putting a lasagna together and putting that in the oven. If we just do a little bit of prep work and plan, like they always say, like, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So if you put a little bit of planning into your meals, you're going to succeed more, and it's going to take that stress off your shoulders. You go into the week feeling better because you took maybe Sunday or Saturday or whatever day you choose. You sit down and you use some meal planning sheets, which I include in the challenge, and you break it down, and then you do your grocery list and you figure out what you need to be successful in preparing all the meals. And what's really great is that today, for you guys on live, on Instagram, and for you guys on Zoom, I have a clean eating recipe bundle, which gives you 5 recipes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like 5 ideas, and it gives you everything you need for that. So already you're armed with just different ideas of how can I eat clean. So we look at these stages that we can go through: cleaning your fridge, right? Understanding why you want to have more live foods in your diet and how healing and therapeutic they can be. Like just switching over to, therapeutic teas rather than coffee. There's so many benefits to herbal teas. I have an herb garden and I love to dry my own herbs, and I have mint on my counter right over here, dried mint from my herb garden, and how refreshing that is to have a drink that is not only medicinal, therapeutic, but calming, opposed to, like, I love coffee. I love the smell of coffee, and I still like to have a little coffee, but I don't drink nearly as much as I used to because I realized that, 6 ounces isn't a lot, right? And 6 ounces has a lot of caffeine. And what is that caffeine doing to my glands? So these are things that I educate you on throughout the process, is how much caffeine is too much and how can we substitute and how can we feel better, because typically caffeine is taxing your adrenal glands, and if you tax your adrenal glands early in the day, you're going to have a mid-afternoon crash, and then you're not going to feel as productive or as motivated to eat healthier later in the day, or maybe not even to make dinner. So those are the tidbits. There's a lot there. I want to share with you also that gut-brain connection, that gut-brain axis, which we're learning so much about. And it's about the gut health, right? So we've heard a lot about the gut microbiome and how everyone's microbiome is off because of all of the, chemicals in the environment and all the chemicals in the food, and everybody's trying to restore their gut these days. I back into that to help you understand really what that means and how gut issues can affect our brains and our digestion, and how to get back to gut health naturally without, taking a pill like people say, oh, just take probiotics and nothing against, supplements and all the things that we can supplement with as far as vitamins and minerals. But first and foremost, you can reset your gut with your healing foods. And I teach you about those healing foods and how they start to stimulate the good flora in your gut. And then again, we go into neurotransmitters. Like, I love these words. Some people are like, what's a neurotransmitter? I'm just like, this is like, one of my words, right? But I'm surprised because as though I take it for granted that everybody knows what a neurotransmitter is, some people don't. So neurotransmitters are chemicals that are induced by what you eat in your brain, and the brain then signals the rest of your body, like your glands and the rest of your body, to do its jobs. And so we have to really pay attention to digestion. Starts first on the tongue. So immediately, if you don't go into the challenge with me and you just want to take away something that's really important, is think about the first taste of anything on your tongue. And just imagine and connect into, how are you feeling? If you put like chocolate or salt or sugar, and like my mouth's starting to water even just thinking about these foods, right? Because I'm mentally thinking about how it's working in my body. So if I think about a lemon, my mouth will water. But if you start thinking right when you put the food on your tongue, what am I feeling? What's the emotion? And I know this is deep work. Over 100 years ago, we've only been for 100 years eating, since the Industrial Revolution, all of these processed foods. So if we were back, 200 years ago, we really didn't have the selection. And when we ate, it was just so pure and natural. Our bodies were evolved to digest and stimulate the salivary glands and to break everything down more efficiently because evolution had created us to do so. And now we don't have the ability to understand, or the intelligence in our cells yet to understand what to do with all these ingredients. So we get a backup and an overflow and a brain fog. And so again, that's where clean eating brings you back. It brings you back on track, it gets you back on track, and then it's a sustainable change that you can live with then. It might take you a couple tries to be in clean eating mode. It might take a year to get some of the products that you buy out of the house. I always say that don't beat yourself up about a food choice. If you want to cheat with those packaged foods, do it, but do it with joy. You want to do anything that has to do with food and digestion with joy, because mentally setting yourself up to feel guilty about it is not good for your digestion. So if you can think about enjoying the food that you eat, and obviously when you are in clean eating, you have this rhythm, and then you think, well, I'm going to the Super Bowl party on Sunday. I want to have the chips and dip. I want to do a little bit of, cheating. That's okay. It's better for you to think like, I'm going to love this, rather than, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, I'm on my clean eating challenge, but I'm going to try a little of this. Don't tell anybody. That whole mental process is not good for, obviously, the reactions in our bodies. So we want to choose the food that we're eating. We're going to eat it with joy. And that's also not giving you a free pass to be like, I'm going to drink 3 glasses of wine with complete joy. No, because the 3 glasses of wine is an over amount of something that's, actually a toxin. Alcohol is a toxin. If you decide that you want to have that glass of wine, that's okay if you put it with your meal. And do whatever you do with complete and utter joy. Feel good, put a smile on your face, and you're just aiding in the digestion when you're doing it with joy. What I want you to take away from this overview is slowly go into looking in your fridge and your pantry, eliminating all these packaged products based on the ingredient list. So the less ingredients in a product, the better it is for you. If you join the challenge in the next 4 weeks, I go over all of those specific ingredients and what they do, and actually some research on what they're doing negatively to our bodies. It's important to be informed. So there is a lot of research of these ingredients and how they're changing our bodies and how they're creating, obesity, cancers. I don't want to go down the dark lane right now, but you know it, you hear it. Then once you start looking in your fridge and you're shopping a little brighter and smarter, I say brighter because we're, our beautiful live food. We're getting brighter. The colors of the rainbow are showing up all over our kitchen. It just makes you happier when you see your kitchen filled with live food. So the digestion you'll tap into, really slowing down, taking a breath, stimulating the salivary glands. You'll get into maybe sitting down instead of standing up when you eat. You'll second guess eating in the car. The other thing is you'll have this framework of just getting really organized. And that organization is just going to take a lot of stress off of you. You might realize, wow, I do need a time block for food. Because food is the single most important thing of driving our life force. We all need to eat in order to have energy. And you might have seen, like, my promo is, how you eat is basically how you feel, because it's stimulating your brain. And then it's how you act. The mood. We know when we eat foods that put us in a bad mood, right? Or we're having a food coma, or we're having a food hangover. We know that it's not going to make us feel good. Really, it's how you eat determines how you feel, determines how you act, determines how you perform. How you perform as a mom, a husband, a coach, whatever you're doing, that food is determining how you're going to perform. And ultimately becomes who you are. It becomes your skin, it becomes your organs. So we're assimilating everything that we're taking into our actual being. And we are ultimately becoming what we eat, which is so cliche. You are what you eat, but it is true. We are what we eat. And people will then say, what are you eating? Or not, they won't ask, what are you eating? What are you doing? You look so alive. Your aura is so bright. They'll say, like, you're glowing, right? Well, that energy from your inner cells is just penetrating and radiating, and you're going to feel so good and so alive. So I want to encourage you to join. I have a 4-week class. And if you're not available for the 4 weeks, it's okay because the recordings are available. But what I do with the 4 weeks is I give you 1 hour of setting up a goal, like a 1 hour one-on-one. I set up your goals, what you need to work with. I'm a health and human performance coach, so this is my background, and this is what I do is I help people with their diet, their nutrition, with their mindset. We create a plan, and then you're with the class for 4 weeks. And if you need any additional support, then I have what's called laser coaching. So laser coaching is where you just maybe need like 25 minutes or you need 15 minutes. And then we talk, we work through any roadblocks that you're encountering, and we work a plan to remove the roadblocks. Most of that is mindset. Most of that is just mental. Like we get, in our heads and we go back into old habits. So we have to work through that mental construct and start reconstructing new brain pathways. So I want to leave with that main point too, is like a new brain pathway. They always say 21 days. I don't know if it's actually 21 days, but science and neuroscience says that we have this pathway we're so used to. So it's just, on my fingers, like the pathway, right? So we want to allow that old pathway to die by forging a new pathway, and that new pathway takes some time. So that's why a 4-week process and a 4-week accountability and showing up in class and learning all of this information is going to arm you with a new pathway and a new habit. And within a month's time, which is longer than 21 days, you sort of get it down and you're ready to go and forge ahead. So I want to say that clean eating is the most important thing you could do for your life, for your family, for your work this year, because how you eat is really how you live and how you vibrate. To say that, good vibrations, right? You want to vibrate with vitality, with exuberance, with enthusiasm. And so grab your live lunch, sit down, take a deep breath before you start, and just really think about joy. Just ingest that food with joy. Sit with somebody. I always say, don't eat alone. Eat with somebody, conversate, smile, and slow down. Because slow is strong. And if we slow down our lives enough to learn this stuff, if we slow down to plan, everything changes. Your body changes. Your body and your weight is a result. It's not the goal, right? I want to do this because I want to lose 20 pounds. No, you want to do it because you want to feel healthy, you want to feel good. And the end result is that you might lose weight. And I don't like to say lose, I say let go. You will let go of weight because you're letting go of that old habit, that old process, and you're becoming that new person. And we're in the year of the snake, so we're shedding our old skin, right? So I invite you to shed your old skin, to shed your layers through spring cleaning your diet. We're cleaning up your pantry, cleaning up your fridge, getting back into a more vibrant way of living. If you have interest, you'll be emailed a link to join up. We start next week on Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, and we go through the 6th of March. So 1 whole month from today until the 6th of March. So thank you so much. Thanks, Amanda, for joining. Thanks, Dr. Sweaty. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Cindy. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.